Okay, section 12.4 deals with protein functions. Now, proteins have crucial roles in all biological processes. The various protein functions discussed in this section are summarized in table 12.3. So I have that table in the slides, but let's start with catalytic function. Now, nearly all reactions that take place in living organisms are catalyzed by proteins functioning as enzymes. So, again, an enzyme is nothing more than a protein that acts as a catalyst. And without these catalytic proteins, biological reactions would take place too slowly for us to exist. So, we wouldn't be able to be alive without these catalytic proteins. Enzyme catalyzed reactions range from relatively simple processes to very complex, like the duplication of hereditary material in cell nuclei. The next we have structural function, and if you remember back in chapter 11 that the main structural material for plants is cellulose, in the animal kingdom, structural materials other than the inorganic components of the skeleton are composed of proteins. Collagen is a fiber-like protein. It's responsible for the mechanical strength of skin and bone. Keratin, which is the key chief constituent, rather, of hair, skin, and fingernails, is another example. Then we have storage function. So some proteins provide a way to store molecules or ions. Ovalbumin, for example, is stored. Ovalbumin, for example, is a stored form of amino acids that is used by embryos developing in bird eggs. Casein is a milk protein. Um, and gliadin in wheat seeds are also stored forms of protein intended to nourish animals and plants, respectively. Ferritin, which is found in all cells of the body, attaches to iron ions and forms a storage complex in humans and other animals. Now, protective function, you've probably heard of antibodies before, and antibodies are tremendously important proteins that protect the body from disease. They're highly specific proteins that combine with and help destroy viruses, bacteria, and other foreign substances that get into the blood or tissue of the body. So, blood clotting, which is another protective process, is carried out by the proteins thrombin and fibrinogen. Without this process, even small wounds would end up being life-threatening. Regulatory function, so numerous body processes are regulated by hormones, and many hormones are just proteins. Examples are growth hormone, which regulates the growth of young animals, and thyrotropin, and thyrotropin, which stimulates the activity of the thyroid gland. Nerve impulse transmission. Some proteins behave as receptors of small molecules that pass between gaps or synapses separating nerve cells. And in this way, they transmit nerve impulses from one nerve to another. Rhodopsin is a protein that's found in the rod cells of the retina of the eye and functions this way in the vision process that you see in figure 12.19 in the textbook. Then we have movement function. So every time that we climb stairs or push a button, blink an eye, we use muscles. They have proteins as their major components. The proteins actin and myosin are particularly important in processes involving movement. They are long filament proteins that slide along each other during muscle contraction. Then we have transport function. So numerous small molecules and ions are transported effectively through the body only after binding to proteins. For example, fatty acids are carried between the adipose tissue and other organs by serum albumin, which is a blood protein, and hemoglobin carries oxygen from the lungs to other body tissues. And transferrin is a carrier of iron in blood plasma. So proteins perform other functions, but these eight that we've covered here in this video are among the most important. They demonstrate that properly functioning cells of living organisms must contain many proteins. It's been estimated that a typical human cell contains 9,000 different proteins and that a human body contains about 100,000 different proteins.